And we are live.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Wednesday, January 5th, and this is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. It is being held virtually. We are being recorded and we are being transmitted live on YouTube. First item is to call the meeting to order, which I now have done. Second item is to establish a quorum. We have all three commissioners present, which does constitute a quorum. And then, as is the case with the first meeting each calendar year, the Board of Commissioners elects a chair and a vice chair. So that is the next item on the agenda. And as chair, I will now open nominations for chair of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners for the calendar year 2022. Hello.
Sorry about that. I would go ahead and make a motion that we nominate Commissioner Hall. And actually, I don't see her. Is she here?
Yep, Commissioner Hall is here. All three of us are present.
There we go. Something happened on my screen here and I lost everybody. So I will make a motion that we nominate Commissioner Hall for chair.
Okay, and I assume that's for the calendar year 2022, and I will second it. Any other nominations? I'll close nominations and call for a vote. All those in favor of Commissioner Hall being chair of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners for the calendar year 2022, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, that motion carries. Congratulations, Commissioner Hall. You are now Chair Hall.
Is that congratulations or condolences? Thanks to both of my colleagues for their support in following our traditional rotation of passing the chair's gavel between each of us every January 1st. Thank you, Commissioner Hunt, for your excellent leadership during calendar year 21. And we'll look forward to continuing that throughout this year, we'll hope. And since this is the first meeting of the month, as well as being the first meeting of the new year, we have our recognition of employee service milestones.
Point of order, if I
Yes,
may,
sir.
Chair Hall.
Yes.
I believe we need to elect a vice chair.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Commissioner Hunt. See, I got rolling too quickly, so.
I've been there.
Okay, let's open nominations for vice chair of the Board of Commissioners.
And I will move that we elect Commissioner Jacobson, Vice Chair of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners for the calendar year 2022.
I'll second that motion. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations and I'll ask for a vote. All in favor of electing Commissioner Jacobson as vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Well, the new team for 2022 is now fully in place. So let's move back to those employee service recognitions, and we invite employees who are being recognized to join us online for the meeting. Know that often work duties prevent that, but if anybody is here, when I call your name, feel free to turn on your camera and wave. So we start off with Mark Sinclair, who is marking 35 years of service in the Public Works Office. Betty Robiger, 25 years in the Clerk's Office. Bruce McGuire, 20 years in the Sheriff's Office. Kimberly Herring with the Treasurer's Office, 10 years of service. And she started out with us here in the Board of Commissioners office. George Partridge, 5 years with Public Works. Azusa Ogawa, 5 years with Health and Human Services. Wayne Sutton, 5 years with the Assessor's Office. And Loretta Montgomery, 5 years with Health and Human Services. So thanks and congratulations to all of these employees for many years of dedicated service to Lincoln County government and most importantly to the people of Lincoln County. Now we have new hire introductions, and do we have someone from personnel who is going to introduce our 4 new additions to the team?
Yes, Chair Hall, I will be taking care of that. Thank you.
Hi, Jaylene.
Hi. So we have 4 new folks we want to introduce today. The first is Gareth Gregson, who is a corrections deputy in the sheriff's office. Roxanne Gounod is rejoining us for public works. She's coming on part-time to assist as a financial clerk. Asia Richardson joined us full-time in the Board of Commissioners office as the executive, administrative, and grants assistant. And finally, Rita Williams is also joining the sheriff's office as a corrections deputy.
Great. And we'll send out the message we always do to the new hires that certainly they are welcome and encouraged to view and participate in Board of Commissioner meetings at any time. We hope we see them before they're back in 5 years for their service anniversary pins. Thank you, Jaylene. Now we move on to agenda item 5, which is approval of the consent calendar. And these are items that are either routine in nature or have been discussed at previous board meetings. Is there any item that staff or commissioners wish to highlight or remove from the consent calendar?
I move that we adopt the consent calendar as it is presented.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for adoption of the consent calendar. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Consent calendar is approved. And now we move on to agenda item number 6, a public hearing on annexation of certain property into the North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District. And let me get my cheat sheet here. Haven't shared an annexation hearing in a while. So I will now formally open this public hearing and we'll turn the presentation over to Jerry Herbage from our legal staff. Jerry, are you ready to go?
I am, and thank you, Chair Hall, and congratulations.
Thank you.
So yes, for the record, I'm Jerry Herbage, Assistant County Counsel for Lincoln County. And today, as you have read, we have a public hearing. It was preceded by legal notice that was given under the law. And we have, what makes this matter today a little interesting is that there are actually 3 proposed annexations that are related. And so we're having one hearing on them. All of these properties have petitions to annex to the North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District number 1. Now there's 3 property owners. The names and properties, well, Erica Dutch has tax lot 300, Tara Hurley, tax lot 500, and Tasha Mack, tax lot 502. All of these property owners are represented by agent Don Pavitt, and Don will be joining us after I give the background to this particular hearing. Now, these annexations are brought before you in accordance with the procedures found in ORS 198-857. That statute is entitled Annexation Without Election by Petition of Landowner. The process in 198-857 is streamlined compared to the other procedures that are much more complex. If you have a single property and that person wants to be annexed, there are streamlined procedures, and we're thankful that the legislature put that through some years ago. It used to be you had to go through a much more complex multi-hearing procedure. So in regards to this matter, we have received the completed applications for annexation for all 3 owners. It took a long time, but we got it done. In each instance, the underlying district, which is North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District number 1, has signed off. That is, they have given, the underlying district has given their approval for this annexation, as well as the Department of Forestry. And the other thing that's very important, and we get a tremendous amount of assistance from the surveyor's office on this, is that we have had the legal descriptions for each of these 3 properties pre-approved by the Oregon Department of Revenue. This is important because although you may approve these matters today, they really don't register in a legal sense until the Department of Revenue has approved these. So that's why you want to have that pre-approved, because if they would not approve it after you approve it, then you're kind of back at point A, which is very difficult, and we try to avoid that. So the 3 applicants are 3 sisters. This is interesting. They're 3 sisters who have properties immediately adjacent to each other. And indeed, as I understand it, they share the same driveway. I think that very soon we'll have some maps up for you so you can kind of see the layout of the properties. Also, what is unique about these applications is we have not received or heard of any opposition to the applications. Following this introduction that I'm going through, Don Pavitt, the agent for these 3 sisters, will speak on their behalf. And so that will happen shortly. And when she's done, if there is no more testimony, you can then close the record and begin to deliberate. When you deliberate, think about this. 198-857 sub 4, so that's the statute that we had mentioned earlier, tells you what the criterion are, or the criterion is for approval. And it says, when determining whether to approve the petition, the county board shall consider the local comprehensive plan for the area. And then it says in any service district agreement, but that doesn't apply. So you're looking at the comprehensive plan for the area, and within the packet, within the materials you have before you, and these are made part of the record, that includes the petition and so on, and the legal descriptions, maps. But also there is an email from John O'Leary, planner for Lincoln County. And he says the annexation of property identified by the Lincoln County assessor in map and tax lots, and then he lists those for these 3 properties, is consistent with the Lincoln County's comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. The requests for annexation are necessary to meet the residential development criteria found in LCC 1.13757G, as well as conditions of approval found in case files 25C ADM 19, 08C ADM 19, and 23C ADM 18, which permit the establishment of one single family dwelling on each of the tax lots noted. So in other words, these 3 sisters obtained some property in the immediate same area, and they needed to get approval, and they did, from our planning and development department. And one of the conditions of approval, as I understand it, is to get this matter squared away. So that's the consistency and why it's before you. Because of the non-controversial nature of the application, I have prepared draft orders for the board consideration. When this hearing is concluded, you can close the record and act on these orders if you so wish today. You have, I would ask that you do separate motions for each of the orders. Although there's 1 hearing, there are 3 applicants. Does the board have any questions?
Questions for Counselor Urbidge at this time?
Okay, thank you very much. I think that Casey, if you could locate Dawn Pavitt, I think that she would like to go ahead and talk a little bit. I think we're going to have some maps to look at.
All right, Dawn. I think you should be able to speak unmuted. So
Okay,
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, we can hear you.
My name is Dawn Pavitt, and I think I know all of you there. And I am the agent for the Wilson family. And the Wilson family consists of a dad and three sisters, Tasha Mack, Tara Hurley, and Erica Duke. And dad gifted the daughters adjoining property. We did a property line adjustment for them. And then we applied for conditional use permits for each of the daughters. The property, as you can see, is just south of Lincoln City, but still within the county. And we met with the fire district. And then we applied for the conditional use permits. Each of the properties, I understand it's part of the state rules for TC zone land that you have to apply for annexation to a fire district if you're not within a fire district already. We received no opposition. Matter of fact, they welcomed to have these properties join fire district. So we then started working with county staff, who's really been wonderful. All along the line, as Jerry said, the surveyor's office really handled the brunt of the work. I don't know how to do the mapping and things that they did, and they did a stellar job because Department of Revenue accepted it. Jerry Herbage just walked me through the whole thing. As you know, I've been doing land use in Lincoln County for a very long time, but I never had to do one of these annexations before. We would always just write a letter requesting annexation. That was the last we'd ever hear of it. So this was a first for me, and Jerry made it easy. So we've had no opposition. I think the sisters are really excited about maybe moving forward with their property after such a long time. And we appreciate any questions you may have for us.
Commissioner Hunt or Commissioner Jacobson, any questions?
I have no questions.
I don't have any questions either, but I was just thinking before Ms. Pavitt spoke that even though I haven't been here too long, 3 years, we've had people petition to get out, but I've never had people petition to get in. And I guess that's not maybe as common. So thanks.
All right, then at this point, I believe I need to ask if there is anyone else online right now who wishes to offer testimony in this matter.
Chair, maybe we could ask anyone to use the raise hand function, but a scan of our roster here, I don't see anyone else other than Dawn, who appears to be here to talk about this.
Okay, then at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing and go back to Council Herbage and see what procedural guidance he has for us at this point.
Thank you very much. What I would say to you is that I think you're at the stage where no one else has asked to testify, that you can, Chair, you could go ahead and close the hearing. And if it makes sense to you and you'd like to, given that there was no opposition, and the important parties here, the required parties have approved this, for instance, North Lincoln Fire and Rescue number 1. You could go ahead and make individual motions to approve each of these 3 annexations.
And how would we distinguish those 3 motions from each other?
You have in your packet 3 different orders.
Oh, yes.
And at the top of each of the order, I put in the name. So one says Dutch, one says Hurley, one says Mac. And so you could reference the order by the last name. Otherwise, you know, the legal description is going to be different and stuff, but basically the orders in each of the 3 are basically the same because you're doing that. So if you pull that up further, to the top, if that's one of them, you will see that, for instance, that one is MAC.
Okay.
So if you address each of those three, then, I move to approve annexation of certain property into the North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District number 1 for applicant MAC, for instance, and then do that for Hurley and Dutch as well.
All right, I will turn to my fellow commissioners for deliberation. Just how you, maybe your thoughts on this annexation request in general, and then the specific question is, do you feel comfortable with taking action today, or would you like to move this to consent calendar next week?
And if I could interrupt just for a second, if we could close the record if you're ready to do that.
Yes, we'll close the record as well as closing the hearing.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Hunt, Commissioner Jacobson, your thoughts.
Well, I'll go first. I think it's pretty straightforward. As Commissioner Jacobson already noted, it's a bit unusual when we have an annexation into a fire district, but there's no opposition. It seems to be certainly in the best interest of the property owners, and no real issues relative to the county. So I support it, and I'm comfortable in moving, taking action today.
I agree.
Commissioner Jacobson?
I agree with Commissioner Hunt.
Great. So who would like to begin offering motions?
All right, I will move that we approve the order annexing certain property into the North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District number 1 for the MAC property.
I will second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the annexation of the MAC property into North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District. Further discussion? Not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. And now we'll move on to the second motion, if we can.
So I will take a stab, but Casey, if you can scroll down so you can get to the other property owner name, that would be helpful.
Okay, bear with me. And I will
It's a thick
find
packet.
it. Yes, stand by. Don't want to give you whiplash here. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. I will say I made a resolution for 2021, and I've almost made it to not print out as much paper. So I try to use the online version of this. All right. I make a motion that we approve annexation of certain property into the North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District for property owner Hurley.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the annexation of the Hurley property into the district. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, 2 down, 1 to go.
Okay, stand
All
by.
right. Mr. Chair, excuse me, Madam Chair, I'll move that we approve the order annexing certain properties into the North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District number 1 for the Dutch property.
I will second the motion.
We have a motion and a second for annexation of the Dutch property. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's all finished. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
All right. We don't have any decision, action, or discussion information items today. So we move on to COVID vaccination update from Florence Portal, our public health director.
Or not, or maybe it's Jane Romero.
Or maybe it's Jane Romero again. Hi, Jane. Happy New Year from all of us.
You too. And Florence will return tomorrow, so you will see her next week, but she is still on vacation this week, or today anyway. So quite a few highlights today. I'm sorry, somebody's cleaning my gutters. I want to make sure they don't make noise. Anyway, apologies on that. So we have, with regard to Omicron, we're seeing 4 times as many positive cases this week as compared to last week. And I'll get into some of those numbers a little later on in the presentation. I know last week, Commissioner Hall, you had asked about the predictions with regard to hospitalizations. OHSU is now predicting about 1,650 hospitalizations. I know at one point, the Oregon Health Authority was predicting about 3,000. It had moved to, you observed 2,000, and now we're at 1,650 predicted for the peak. The isolation and quarantine guidelines have changed such that there are now shortened periods of time that folks will need to isolate and quarantine. I'll go over those in a minute as well. The guidelines I'm going to share with you, though, do not apply to schools or to our healthcare setting. So it would just be for the general public. Moving over to vaccinations, the FDA has approved boosters for the 12 to 15-year-old age cohort. That still is going to have to work its way through the CDC and then through the governor's office before it's approved for Oregon. The CDC is now recommending boosters at the 5-month period for Pfizer only. And so anybody who is eligible for a booster who had the Pfizer series, the recommendation is that they would get their booster at 5 months. Although for Moderna, it continues to be at the 6-month post original series point, and for the Johnson & Johnson, it continues to be at 2 months. All right, next slide. All right, so it kind of makes sense to talk about what is considered fully vaccinated now that we're in the age of boosters. So a person is considered to be fully vaccinated if they've been boosted or they completed their Pfizer series or Moderna series within the past 6 months, or they completed their Johnson & Johnson injection within the last 2 months. If you're outside of those thresholds, then a person is no longer considered to be fully vaccinated. And so you can see here, you're not fully vaccinated if you're outside that range, or you're unvaccinated. Next slide. So these are the new isolation guidelines. And to be perfectly honest, this has been a bit of a moving target this past week, but this is what we believe to be the case at this point in time. And I just want to put out there that this could change. And if it does, certainly we'll make the community aware. But at this point, if a person tests positive for COVID-19, they're to stay home and isolate for 5 days. And if symptoms abate, then they can leave the house after 5 days after the symptoms abate. And they have to continue to wear a mask for another 5 days thereafter. If a person is fully vaccinated and they're just exposed, they don't have to stay home. They're advised to wear a mask around others for a full 10 days and get tested on day 5. And then, of course, if they develop symptoms, to stay home and get tested. And then if a person is exposed to COVID-19, but they're not fully vaccinated, they don't meet the criteria as being fully vaccinated, then they're to stay home for 5 days. And then when they leave, to continue to wear a mask for an additional 5 days, get tested on day 5. And then, of course, if they develop symptoms, to stay home and follow the protocols for positive COVID. So it's kind of a lot to digest at this point. And as I said, it's been a moving target, but this is our understanding at this point. And of course, through our press releases, we're making this available to the community.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So on the COVID-19, and I agree, it's been kind of a moving target and hard to
Yeah.
interpret. So I appreciate the kind of easy graph. So on the first one on the left, COVID-19 positive isolate, that is regardless of if you are fully vaccinated or not, correct?
Yes, and that's if you test positive. Yes, correct.
Yeah, so if you test positive and you are vaccinated or you're not vaccinated, that's what you do.
Mhm.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
that's our understanding.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
the other thing, which is not in this slide, that I just learned kind of at the end of the day yesterday is, like if you're exposed, what is the line in the sand for that? So you spend the weekend with somebody, you see them Friday, and then you learn on Monday that they tested positive. The 5-day count actually begins on the last day that you saw the person. So if you were with them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, then the first day of your 5 days would be the Sunday, not Friday, not retro to Friday. The first day would be the last day you were with the person who tested positive. Again, it's a lot to keep up with. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so this is the Oregon Epi Curve, and as you can see, it's going up. And of course, that's due to Omicron. The 7-day daily average is now at around 2,400 people per day. Next slide, please. And you can see the top line is the number of folks who are testing positive. You can see the uptick in the dark blue line, the top one. But you can see as you go deeper in, the medium blue line or the middle line are the folks who are hospitalized. And that's sort of holding steady. So that's a good sign. And then the very bottom line are the folks who are hospitalized and on a ventilator. And that's looking like it's starting to take a downward curve, but it's, for the most part, holding steady. Next slide. So with regard to our local hospitalization data with Samaritan North Lincoln Hospital, as of yesterday, we had one individual in the ICU that tested positive with COVID. I just need to caution that doesn't necessarily mean that they were hospitalized because of COVID. It's just that they're in the hospital and they've tested positive. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because if you look at the numbers on January 1st, it's close to 9. And so I inquired about that, and the feedback I got was that would just reflect the number who tested positive. Again, it wouldn't necessarily mean they were being treated because of a severe reaction to COVID, but it also could be. But anyway, next slide. And then, of course, this is the data for Pacific Communities Hospital. And as of yesterday, there were no folks in the hospital that had tested positive for COVID. So still looking good for us on that front. Next slide, please. So this is our information for, on a monthly basis. In December, we had 348 cases, a slight uptick from November. And so far through yesterday, we had 36 positive cases. We had 36 through the 3rd. We had an additional 14 reported yesterday for 49. So, we'll keep watching that, obviously. You can see that our test positivity rate is at 13.6%. It's up from just under 5% last week. Next slide, please. So this is our weekly case rate, and for the week of December 26th through the week of December 26th, sorry, you can see that we had 161 positive cases. So really, we regard this as a surge. Information that I received yesterday from Samaritan suggests that the majority of cases being seen are Omicron at this point. We're expecting to see another surge probably this week, just following the New Year's holiday as well. All right, next slide. This is our vaccination rate, and it's interesting data. We continue to have 83% of our population have at least one dose of vaccine, but as we now know, a person is really considered fully vaccinated if they have the full series plus a booster if they're 5 to 6 months out, or even 2 months for Johnson & Johnson. But if they're outside of their respective ranges, they're no longer considered to be fully vaccinated.
Jane, could I ask a question here, please?
Certainly.
I've had people ask me, because it hasn't been in the reports in a while. I know we rank very high among the 36 counties in our vaccination rate, but do you happen to know our standing right now out of the 36? I know it's near the top, but
well, we were number one, at least last week. Going into the holidays, we were number one. So I imagine we're, still either number one or in the top 3. I think this is an incredible achievement for our county.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm pretty proud of us as a county.
Oh yeah, I feel the same way. Certainly the public health team, which is shouldered the main challenge of this, our partners like Samaritan and many others. And then I have to offer a big salute to the public who has trusted the science, come forward, got the shots, not given in to fear or misinformation. And so collective cheer all the way around as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, next slide.
Yep.
So these are our upcoming vaccination clinics, and the clinics in the table reflect the ones that we will be carrying out, but also the FEMA vaccination van will be back starting January 6th, and will be here through the 20th. They will be at this address, 633 Northeast 3rd Street, which is the Commons. And they'll be available from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. every day, including on Martin Luther King Day, which is a holiday for some folks. So every opportunity to get vaccinated or get boosted. And of course, I think we all hope to help achieve that 1 million, or that, I guess it's the 1 million booster target that the governor has set for us. All right, and then next slide. And of course, the way to reduce COVID transmissions is to get vaccinated, get boosted, wear a mask, limit social gatherings, stay home when sick, and get tested if you can. So any questions, commissioners?
I do have one. I mean, on the one hand, it's very encouraging to hear that we've only got one person in the local ICUs who has tested positive for COVID. But on the other hand, a 4-fold increase in positive cases in 1 week seems pretty concerning. So I'm wondering if there's anything we should at least be thinking about at the local level, or whether you know of any discussions at the state level in terms of additional protections that might be or should be considered?
I think for the most part, the information that's going out at the state level is just adopting to the new guidelines. But one thing that I do think is important to bring up is the fact that folks are being advised to upgrade their masks, to make sure that the masks they're wearing are, double masks, not handkerchiefs, not the kind that you pull up over your face, but really those that are double, a surgical mask, something that just really is known to do a good job of protecting individuals, protecting self, protecting others, and to make sure that the mask is worn properly. Ideally, it would be a mask that has, the metal in the mask that you can close around knows. I know that probably like you folks, I see people all the time with the mask below their nose, just covering their mouth. And of course, the virus works through the nasal passages. So I think that's probably the important message. It's not just enough to have a mask, but you have to wear it. It has to be a proper mask, and you have to wear it properly if you're going to protect yourself and you're going to protect other folks.
Okay, thank you. Do my
Thank
fellow
you.
commissioners have any questions for Jane? Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, not a question for Director Romero, but maybe just a comment after off of your question, Commissioner Hall. I know earlier on in the pandemic, we did receive, supplies of masks and stuff that came through emergency management. I don't know if we still have any of those supplies or still receive them, but maybe a talk with our emergency manager to see if we do. It might be worth, if we did have supplies, doing a distribution event again. I don't know about you, but my masks are, getting a little worn maybe, and the straps maybe aren't as tight as they were 2 years ago or whatever. So, maybe it's just time to see if we could distribute new masks out if we had some available, just as a way to make sure people are still wearing ones that are properly fitting and that sort of thing.
If I may add, I know I just asked our supply person to order some of the KN95 masks to make available in our clinic settings and in areas where our patients or clients come, just as an option to the surgical mask, so that folks can figure out which type of mask might be more comfortable for them. And you triggered a memory. So the public health system should be getting about 5,200 free home test kits. Oregon has purchased millions of them, and they're being distributed to community partners, schools, et cetera, and to the public health system on a basis that sort of follows our funding formulas. Anyway, they're set to come. They're still working out the distribution plan, and I think once we have more information, maybe next Wednesday, we'll be able to give you more details on how many we actually get and how we might be able to make them available to the public.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I was going to add that, I know, gosh, I don't know how many months ago it was, maybe 2 months or something. 3 months, we provided those at-home type tests to our employees. And my understanding is that went over very well, and that people have mostly used up those 2 tests. And I think there's been some, many employees reaching out to HR wanting to have us do that again, provide more at-home tests again. And I think Asia and our office and HR will be working together on trying to get more of those tests and distribute again. I don't know if you've been tapped into that conversation, but might be helpful if you haven't been looped in.
Okay, yeah, that would be great, and I would appreciate that. I actually might have a little information to add there. So
yeah.
Okay, anything else from Commissioner Hunt or Commissioner Jacobson?
I'll just add that I know there's been discussion about a second round of home test kits being purchased by the county. I believe the first time we did this, it was 2 test kits per employee. And I know the discussion has been around doing that again and distributing the test kits the same way that we did with the first round. And I certainly support that and think that that's something that we should do.
All right, then Jane will say thank you very much for another good presentation, and we'll see Florence at this time next week, but I'll just say don't be a stranger, and we'll see you at another BOC meeting one of these days, I'm sure.
thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks. And now we move along to reports from commissioners, and Commissioner Hunt's at the top of my panel, so I'll just ask first if he has anything to share.
No, I really have nothing. I will offer my congratulations to Chair Hall and wish you a good year, 2022. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Commissioner Jacobson. Anything to share?
Sorry, sticky unmute button there.
Oh, I've known that problem. Yep.
Nothing further to share. Thank you.
All right, I will mention one thing, an email that just dropped in minutes before we gavelled the meeting to order. We have had some initial discussion internally and in the community about a possible $2 million grant to enhance our response to homelessness in Lincoln County that would involve local government, county, city, as well as both public agency partners and private nonprofit partners. We had to submit a letter of interest, which was done on the deadline of December 7th. And now we have been, and this was for possible inclusion in a bill that will be introduced in the 2022 legislature. And what I've been building up to, the big reveal, is that our proposal has been selected as one of the current 6 pilots to be included in the bill. Now, of course, that means there's still many steps to go through. We'll have to put together a full application. We'll have to see this bill through both houses of the legislature and to the governor's desk. So it's not a done deal by any means at this point, but at least this is one encouraging signal along the way. So
That is really exciting news. I had a talk very early on with the bill sponsor, and then you kind of picked it up from there. So I'm really happy to hear that we are one of the named pilot areas. That is great. Thanks, Commissioner Hall.
you're most welcome. All right, Casey Miller, our public information officer, could we bring you in now for an update on public input? Do we have anybody online who has indicated an interest in public comment?
Chair Hall, I did see somebody jump on. They've since left the meeting.
Okay.
Remind everyone to use that raised hand function if you'd like to provide some live input. And maybe while we're waiting for that, we can cruise over to our website.
Our smart sheet, that's the other alternative for submitting written testimony. And
yeah, let's take a look at that.
and these are shared with all 3 commissioners, as well as being part of the public record.
Yes, indeed. And we have not received input since the 22nd, at least through the smart sheet. Now, sometimes people do email Christy, Asia, or I, but we have not received input. And then just a reminder that when we do receive it, we load it up to the website. You can see the web page for today's meeting. And since we don't have any input loaded on the website. So jumping back to our meeting, I see no raised hands and I see no additional individuals. So I think we're done with that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Miller. And before I wrap things up, I'll remind people that the Board of Commissioners will participate in an office staff meeting next Monday morning, January 10th at 9. That will be held virtually. And 1 week from today, Wednesday, January 12th, 10 a.m., the next Board of Commissioners meeting, which will also be held on this same virtual platform. So thanks to one and all, and until next week, we're adjourned.